Follow on quickly from that. 208 false negatives, and this is all over the news, and you don't know which labs they came from. You can't tell us that, and it's been in the Dáil yesterday and the day before. Hello?
I didn't say we don't know. I said that we would provide that information.
I thought we were asked for the positive predictive value of the laboratories to show how they perform. I thought we were asked for the positive predictive value of the laboratories, which is it's a measuring.
Well, do you know which lab the 208 from?
Where do the 208 misdiagnoses come from?
Different laboratories.
From different laboratories?
All laboratories.
Yeah,
all laboratories.
But what I'm asking you is, can you not say how much of them came from the US, how much of them came from Sandyford, how much of them came from the Coombe? Now, I would imagine that's in your head somewhere, and you know it, because if you don't, you're not doing a proper job. That is a very fundamental question to what was said in 2008, and that is not, you're misrepresenting, I think, Dr. Gibbons and the obstetrician when you say that that is not what he predicted. What they predicted was that in about 10 years' time, we will see the results of poor quality testing that is contracted out or resourced out, outsourced to America. And that's what he was arguing at the time. And now we're seeing it, but what we're also seeing is an attempt to cover it up. And that's why we want to go back to who was reported to whom, and I have a few questions to ask on that.
Can I just respond to these and then take your questions? Would that be reasonable?
Yeah, but I do have questions,
Sure.
so I want to, can I just ask them quickly after he responds?
Yes.
Right. We agree about what Dr. Gibbons predicted. We are clear that that is not what has happened.
Sorry? I'm not clear.
Well, the Chief Medical Officer has been quite clear in terms of the incidence of false negatives resulting in later diagnosis of cancer. We are not seeing something that is out of line with what might reasonably be expected in a screening programme based on this technology. However, with the Chair's agreement, we will provide full written information on the questions that have just been asked, because it's far better done by giving it to you in writing than seeking to give you that kind of information verbally.
Thank you.
So you're going to tell us exactly from what labs, how many each of the false negatives came? Are we clear about that?
We can identify by laboratory. I'm not sure we'll name the laboratories, but we'll identify the laboratory A, B or C.
Well, why would you not name them?
Hold on a second. I'm answering the question. The answer is yes.
You will name them?
Yes.
You won't call them A, B, C?
No.
You will name them, and we'll be able to clearly see if what Dr. Gibbons said in 2008 is correct or not, that this was going to lead to an increased level of false negatives in 10 years' time. Now, if it isn't the case, then why did CPL settle up with Vicky for 2.5 million? Why would they do it? Here's 2.5 million, Vicky. There's no issue here with us testing, having poor quality testing. Our contention is that the outsourcing has delivered poor quality services in cervical screening for women.
Well, I understand your contention, but it's also the case that before cytology screening was outsourced to America or anywhere else, there were also situations where settlements or payments awarded by the court arose in relation to false negatives.
Sure. And I don't want to get into that yet because I lose my time. I want to ask the Chief Medical Officer a question. At any stage, did you have a discussion, a conversation over a cup of coffee, bump into him in the corridor, with Simon Harris, the Minister for Health, about the case of Vicky Phelan in advance to him being formally told by the note that he read out in the Dáil last night, at any stage? And were you, when he kicked it up the line, and when Mr. Gleeson kicked it up the line, and I'd like to clarify to whom Mr. Gleeson kicked it up the line, because there's two heads of screening. One is the head of the National Cervical Screening Programme, Grania Flannelly, and the other is Charles O'Hanlon, the head of screening overall. Who you kicked it up the line to, and what did they do with it? Did they at any stage kick it up the line to the Chief Medical Officer? Did he tell the Minister? And if he didn't, why didn't he?
Thank you, Deputy Smith.
So, the question to me, at any stage, did I have a conversation, bump into the corridor, a cup of coffee, discussion about Vicky Phelan with Minister Harris? The answer is no.
You knew about it?
I knew about the case, yes.
But you didn't tell him?
I did not tell him, no.
At any stage
he had
before?
a briefing note, which included contributions from my division, but I didn't speak to him directly about it, no.
But before he got the briefing note, was there any indication, in private conversation, anything at all? Never?
Never.
No, I know there's no emails, I know there's no smoke and gun, but it was never mentioned to him.
In a conversation by me, never.
Okay, so who...
1 minute, Deputy Smith.
Okay, one more minute. The question to Mr Gleeson, who did you kick it up the line to?
When I was informed by the State Claims Agency there was a case, the head of the screening service.
Was that Charles O'Hanlon or Grania Flannelly?
They have two different titles from what you read out.
Yeah, but which one was it?
I gave you the title.
Sorry.
I was asked not to name people who aren't in
Well,
the room.
I've just
I'm
named
just
them
trying to
both.
follow protocol.
Sorry, give me the title again, please.
Head of the screening service.
Head of Screening
National
Services.
Screening Service.
So it's Charles O'Hanlon you kicked it up to. And did he kick it up any further that you know of, Chief Medical Officer, please?
Sorry.
Did he kick that up any further?
The department was notified.
By Charles O'Hanlon?
By the screening service, yes, that
Okay.
there was a case, and you've seen the facts of the case because it's covered in detail in the briefing note.
I'm sorry.
I am going to shut up, but I just find it so incredible.
You've breached the privilege, really, of naming somebody here.
We got his titles.
We name people all the time.
All you have to do is ask Dougal. As my mother used to say, ask Dougal. All you have to do is Google it and you'll find out who it is.
Deputy Conway, Senator Conway Walsh.
Thank you. I know it's getting a bit late, but I want to try and hone in on the relationship between the HSE